Hi guys, thank you for tuning in, and this is the third video where I reintroduce my watch collection to you. I've previously had about a year and a half of YouTube, and all my previous watches that I've sold, and now I'm back in the game with a killer collection in my eyes. I've got the Pelagos FXD, the Omega Seamaster Aquaterra, and now this, the Bell & Ross BR05. I have fancied this watch, not only from afar, from nearby as well. I've actually had the opportunity to review it twice on the channel. I am definitely going to have to get one of these in the collection. It's one of the nicest watches I've ever experienced. One of my all-time favourite watches. Better late than never. I do own it, and I do love it. So a very quick introduction to Bell & Ross. They are a French outfit. They are based in Paris, and their manufacturing base is in Switzerland in La Chaux-de-Fonds. I'm sure I've butchered that. And they were founded only in 1994. Up until 2002, B&R watches were made by Sin. Now, if you've heard of Sin, that's pretty cool that you've heard of Sin and they used to make Bell & Ross watches. If you haven't, they're a German organisation and they're probably most famous for tool watches, but also buying the rights to the Navitimer during the quartz crisis off Breitling, and that's why they've got a very similar watch to the Navitimer, because it's theirs. After 2002, Chanel bought them out and they had a minority stake in them, and after that period they started to produce what they're renowned for now, which is square watches. They have supplied the French Air Force and the French space program, and they've also been involved in F1 up until last year, sponsoring Renault and Alpine individually. I'd just like to go back to that 1994. That is a really, really young age, 30 years old this year, and just to put that in a bit of perspective for you, Rolex are 89 years older, Omega are 146 years older, Tag Heuer 109 years old, Breitling 110 years old, Zenith, Jesus, 129 years old, and Hublot only 14 years old, and Bremont only 8 years old. Now, it's an interesting list, is that, because you'd have to say that the older the watch, the more highly regarded the watch is. You've got to be 100 years in this game before you can have true respect. People like Bremont maybe breaking that mold a little bit, but they have their naysayers, and Bell & Ross also have their naysayers. But for me, I think they've hit a home run with the BR05. Is any BR05 review on YouTube ever complete, fully complete, without referencing the Nautilus or the Royal Oak? Now, I get why that argument is current, is relevant, but if you look really closely, they're not identical watches, they're not copycats, it's certainly not a homage. But I'll leave that reference into two bigger, more serious watches to a later date. In my eyes, it's a standalone watch with a reference to not those watches, but maybe the period of the 70s and integrated sports watch models. One of the very, very big positives about this watch, I don't know if that's coming across on camera, is the fact that it's like wearing a mini disco ball on your hands. Now, I appreciate that won't be for everybody. People don't like polished bits on watches sometimes. But if you do, you're in for a rare treat with this watch. It's absolutely glorious. It looks fantastic in low light, high light. My wife even commented when we were walking around Manchester recently how nice the watch looked. It was a sunny day and it was just catching the light in all the right ways. It's an absolutely brilliant looking watch. The case is fantastic. It reflects light on the bezel. Even the crystal seems to reflect a little bit of light. And the bracelet is just outstanding. For even the brushed bits seem to reflect light in a really, really sexy way. Coming onto that bracelet, it is, oh la la, it's a fantastic bit of technology in my eyes. Now, it's got a massive taper from 24 to 16, but obviously 24 isn't as big as a regular 24mm strap. It's a 24mm taper on an integrated sports watch. And one of the big things about this watch is that not only it tapers fantastic, but it's incredibly thin, only 2.7mm of a bracelet. Now you think that's not a lot of metal, but it feels substantial enough on the wrist that it's not going to bend or buckle under me. It's definitely strong enough for everyday wear, that's for sure. Something very, very nice about this watch is the center links. Now, forget the argument about polished center links or not polished center links. I think this watch just wouldn't look right if the center links were not polished. But the fact is that every single center link is actually a different size from the one above it, and it tapers down naturally with the taper of the whole bracelet. And I think it's a really small detail, but I just think it works absolutely fantastic. For me, it's one of the highlights of this watch. Not just the center links and the tapering, but the bracelet in general. It's just so comfy, so good looking. It just feels pure luxury on your wrist. It really does. It is an integrated watch, and for us strap whores out there, we do like to change up, get different rubbers or leathers on this strap. With an integrated watch, it's a lot more difficult. So you've got to understand that you're going to be wearing it on the bracelet all day, every day. For me, that's not a problem. I've got other watches that can feed my desire to change up. It does come with an official Bell & Ross rubber strap, but if you want to dip in your pocket and find £400, then go ahead and you can buy one. But for me, it needs to be on the bracelet. I think that's where it looks its best. Another nice touch about this watch is that it does have half links. Makes a big difference, and for me, I found a really good fit where it just fits perfectly. It isn't too tight, isn't too loose. It's got a butterfly clasp which has got a polished B&R symbol on it to finish it off. The H-link design, now yes, that does look a bit like the Patek Philippe. If you eyeball them side by side, they're not identical. There is some differences, but yes, it has got H-link design, which you could say it's from other watches as well, but is there one true, on its own, standalone watch that doesn't look like anything else, or you can't reference it from someone else? I can't think of one. So in keeping with the 2.7mm bracelet, this watch case is only 10.7mm thick, really, really good proportions. And if you take the crystal away, which reflects a little bit of light, so I quite like that it's raised, it's actually only 9.7mm thick in the case. Really comfy, really well proportioned. Even for the smaller wrists, I think this watch will work. Speaking of whether this watch will work for smaller wrists, I appreciate that it's a 39mm case. 39-40mm, I think I've measured it a couple of times. I get slightly different readings every time, but it's there or thereabouts, a 39-40mm case. Now you might think, well, it's a square case, so it does appear and look bigger. And that's true, it does, but it's not the end of the world. What I did is I wore my 42mm Hamilton for about 3 days before this watch came. And then when I put this watch on, it felt genuinely small, perfect fit. It didn't feel too big at all. So any concerns out there that a 40mm square watch is too big, I think you've just got to live with it and wear it and get used to it. And I don't think you will feel that it's too big for you. Something to mention about the square case, that yes, Bell & Ross are famous for square cases. This is a square watch, there's no doubt about it. But it's probably the least square it could possibly be without being round, if you know what I mean. I'll try and explain it in pictures. So obviously the face is completely round and the edges of the bezel are circled off. There's circles in the screws, and then the case itself actually curves around. And no, there is straight edges on here. It is a square watch, but it's not as square as you might think initially. I've gone for a black dial on this watch. It does come in a blue version. It does come in several different versions now. The blue version is sunburst. It's really nice. But I've gone for this black, more matted. I think it's more versatile. It'll go with just about every outfit I ever want to choose. And the face is brilliant. The hands, the markers, they're applied, they're polished. They look really well thought out. They look rich. They look expensive. I really do like this dial. Now, one thing to mention again, without mentioning the Royal Oak or the Nautilus, is that this watch does share the exact same hands as those two watches. So that is probably a bit of a bugbear for me, in the way that they could have just squared them off. They could have put a little triangle point on the end, just something, just to keep them similar but make them different as well. So yeah, I think that probably is one of the main reasons why people do pick on this watch a little bit more than they should. The lume is out of this world. I really, really enjoy lume. If you watch my videos, you know that. So I think the lume stands out, but it's not a deal breaker. If this had no lume, I would still want this watch. The case back is display case back, which for me, as I said in a previous video, even if it's on a £200 watch, I think it makes the watch a more expensive looking watch. I think it gives a little bit of quality and class to that watch. And the official movement is a BR caliber 321, which if you dig a little deeper, it's a Sellita SW301. Now, it's about 48 hours power reserve. It's not enough for me. I would prefer it a little bit more. But if you could put in this watch a 70-hour power reserve and tell me it's going to be 2mm thicker, I would take the dimensions and the finishing of this watch over the movement any day. Absolutely. They have put an in-house in the new Bell & Ross, but I think that's gone up to 41, 42mm, and for me, it's just oversized and it doesn't quite work as well. I think there's quite a lot in the Bell & Ross range now with the BR05. There's loads of different versions, but in all honesty, the original they should have stuck with, because I think it's the best by far. So I have to say, guys, that this is truly one of the best watches I've ever owned. It feels luxurious. I think it looks luxurious. Yes, there is it a cloud hanging over it with the references to the two of the most famous watches in the world? Possibly a cloud. In truthful, all honesty, if I was going to a super posh party where I knew there was going to be people wearing a Royal Oak and a Nautilus, Would I wear this and hold my hand up with pride? I'd probably wear something a bit different because I won't want to cause any controversy. It doesn't devalue the watch in any way, shape or form. I probably will make a video where I take a closer look at the true similarities between those three watches, and all the integrated sport watches. They've all got something similar with them, and there's only so much you can do with a watch before designs and cues and markers and hands, they start to overlap. So I don't hold anything against Bell & Ross for making this watch. I think it's truly fantastic. So I'm going to leave you today with 2 good, 2 bad regarding this watch. And the 2 good are, I'll start with the comfort. I think it's a really comfy watch, and that's proportions, the fact that it's under 11mm thickness, under 10mm if you take away the crystal. It is 40mm, but it's so thin and comfy around the wrist. It wraps around any wrist size, an absolute treat with the half links. I think the comfort and all-day wearability is 10 out of 10, without a doubt. And the second good, I would have to say that it's the finishing. Oh la la. Good Lord, it feels like $1,000,000. It looks like $1,000,000. I love this watch. Get hands on. Just go try it on in a shop. You don't have to buy it. It's not going to be for everyone. Absolutely not. Go in a shop, try it on, see for yourself how nice this watch is up close and personal. And one of the final things, I'll leave you with 2 bad. I genuinely don't have 2 bad things to say about this watch. If I had to pick some, I've had to force myself to say something, I would. I'd say it's the identical hands to the Royal Oak and the Nautilus. And well, your second one would be the fact that it's got a lot of referencing towards that. It seems like every other Tom, Dick and Harry on YouTube can't do a BR05 review on YouTube or Instagram without referencing the 2 most famous watches in the world. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you like the 3rd watch in my collection. That's 3 big hitters. I haven't got any more big hitters to give you. I've got a couple of smaller brands or lesser value brands to show you in the future. But I hope you're glad to have me back. I'm really excited. I'm really enjoying making videos again. And I'll see you in the next one.